Welcome to the American Academy of Grief Counseling's Videogram on ecological grief. And this is something that's relatively new. It was coined in the 1940s, the term, by Aldo Leopold. And it was due to the fact that he noticed that individuals were beginning to experience grief to changes in the environment. Now, this is well before even any type of climate change, really, because any type of ecological change can cause grief itself. It doesn't take a massive change in the planet itself with the climate crisis and global warming for you to experience something like that. Any desecration or destruction of something that is beautiful, that is natural, can cause ecological grief itself. So it can be direct, where you are directly affected by it. It can be indirect and more of a social grief, a shared grief, a communal grief. So not to the point where you directly feel it, but it's indirectly affecting how you feel about life itself. And there's also an anticipatory grief with it, in regards to what is occurring. Now, this has more to do with the climate change, about the future of our planet and how we are stewards, good stewards of the resources that are on this planet. And when we see those resources not being utilized properly, and we see the impending doom that could occur if we don't change our ways, there's that type of loss. And all of this has to do with loss. The types of loss, direct, indirect, anticipatory, and so forth. There is a loss directly to individuals when it comes especially with an identity that someone has with the land. And that's the case with a lot of indigenous individuals or people who live in places. The Inuit region is experiencing that with the melting of the ice caps, and they see themselves as the people of the sea. And with the melting of the ice caps and so forth, that identity is being taken away from them. And Ashley Consolo and Neville Ellis were two social scientists who took a look at this more in depth. Neville Ellis dealt more with the droughts in Australia and how farmers were losing their identity, while Ashley Consolo dealt more with the northern areas of the ice caps and how these northern tribes, these indigenous peoples, viewed themselves and how they were losing this identity of what they were because of the melting that's been occurring itself. So there is a loss of identity directly, and there's also loss of possessions. Individuals suffer loss of home, loss of income. Family might die through floods and droughts and fire and other extreme weather. And with that even comes a greater strain on society as a whole, because there's a displacement of populations. There's economic disruption because of that. And this causes national crisis. Individuals flood other borders for better opportunity. So individuals who directly are affected by climate change and ecological grief at a very massive scale through the droughts and the fires that we're experiencing more frequently, especially in the United States out west with the droughts, and the more extreme weather that we're experiencing through the hurricanes and the tornadoes. All of these things destroy. And if we're experiencing more, there is this type of ecological grief that's occurring to these individuals as it affects their very lives and livelihood itself. From a more indirect look, there's a loss of beauty and diversity. So this is more of a social grief. And it's a very sad one. So many beautiful habitats of the rainforest and the Great Barrier Reef, for example. The rainforest is losing acreage upon acreage, thousands of acres a day due to logging companies. And it's destroying many beautiful forms of species that are yet to even be discovered And then, of course, the Great Barrier Reef. Our coral reefs are extremely important, and they're bleaching due to the rising temperatures of the water due to global warming. And scientists who see this experience it more directly. But if you're one to even go diving and you love to see these places and you see the scars of what's occurring, you feel the pain itself, the loss itself, that future generations will never be able to see some of these habitats and these species that have gone extinct due to logging and deforestation. So the loss of these treasures is a human loss. It's not it's an individual loss in some way, but it's bigger than just you or me. It's the planet, and it's the beauty that we are tearing away for future generations for us to be able to enjoy. And that is a huge loss. That's a loss that can never be regained. Then there's the anticipatory grief that we spoke of, the fear. And there is a great fear of what will happen in the next 50 years. Where will we be? Where will we be by the next century even? A lot of effects from the droughts and the extreme weather. How will our ability to produce enough food for the population be? How will some of these coastal cities be with the rising sea levels? How safe will the environment be? How depleted will the ozone be in terms of keeping harmful radiation from affecting us? So there can be this dire fear of the future, and it's a legitimate fear. Science has been very, very precise in stating that something is going on, and we should have this grief within us. And this grief should push us to action. And we should look to better change what we do. So there are ways to cope with ecological grief. First, at a more personal level, share your grief with like-minded individuals, express it on social media, share facts, educate others. Take action, reduce your own carbon footprint. Become socially active in the area, and support only politics that protect the environment. And create, one way a lot of individuals say they overcome some of the fears and anxieties and griefs is they create their own. Maybe they have a reef tank. Maybe they have a garden, a Zen garden, or a koi pond, something that they can control, that they can protect. That sometimes helps as well. So it's important, I think, to, whenever you're experiencing loss or anxiety, to talk about it and to share it. But sometimes social grief especially brings action out of society. And we have to take action. We have to do something to curb and stop climate change and so forth. So this grief, in some way, acknowledging this loss is extremely important. The problem is some individuals don't want to cope. They don't want to deal with the grief itself, and they deny climate change. It's a lot easier to say, oh, it's just something that's occurring. We're not causing it. We can't do anything about it. And they're climate change deniers. While certain individuals obviously have money to be lost with reductions of how things are made and manufactured, there are a lot who just want to keep their heads in the ground and just pretend that this isn't occurring. And what is denial? It's one of the first phases of reaction to loss, is it not? So what a horrible thought that we're damaging our planet and we're seeing these effects, and we have to change the way we live. But individuals don't want to accept it yet. And one of the most important things is accepting the loss. And that way we can take action and prevent further damage to the planet itself. And I think that's very important. If you'd like to learn more about our grief counseling certification, we have a link below. That link will take you to the program, and you can then review the courses. The courses are meant for qualified professionals who are looking to become certified grief counselors. The certification is for 4 years. You can go through the program at your own speed and your own pace. Below also is our number at 330-652-7776, as well as our email at info@aihcp.org. So with that, let's keep in mind that climate change is real, that there is a loss taking place, whether it's more direct for some, which is very sad, or of more of an indirect, that we know we're losing beauty every day, and the anticipation and the fear that comes with that, that loss is going to find us eventually if we don't change. So it's important, become active, reduce your carbon footprint, do your little part. If everyone did their little part, we can make bigger changes at the national level, obviously. So I'd like to thank you for listening and have a good day.